When a baby owl bows to Charlie in the silence of the forest, something inexplicable begins to happen. Later, a nighttime visit to the police station reveals that he is connected to these creatures in a mysterious way. But why did the owl return to find him? When Charlie discovered the true reason, he fell to his knees. The sun was setting, casting long and mysterious shadows among the tall trees of the forest, when Charlie and his friends decided to stop their motorcycles to rest. The sound of the engines finally ceased, giving way to the almost supernatural silence of nature at dusk. Charlie, a nature lover, turned off his bike's engine and took a deep breath, smelling the damp leaves and fresh air. They were in one of his favorite spots, a hidden nook where few people went. As they talked and laughed about the last few miles they had ridden, a soft and strange sound interrupted the tranquility. It was a low hoot, almost like a whisper coming from the depths of the forest. Curious, Charlie signaled for his friends to be quiet. His eyes narrowed as he tried to identify the source of the sound. "Did you hear that?" Charlie asked, his voice low, almost as if he didn't want to scare whatever it was. The friends nodded, now also attentive. Guided by curiosity, Charlie began to walk in the direction of the sound, with the others close behind. It didn't take long for them to find the source of the hoot. There, on the ground, between the roots of an old tree, was a small baby owl. It was an unusual and enchanting sight, but what happened next was even more extraordinary. The small owl, with its large, bright eyes, fixed its gaze on Charlie and, to everyone's surprise, began to bow repeatedly to him. The gesture was almost human, as if the owl was trying to communicate something that only Charlie could understand. The friends remained silent, fascinated by the scene. "This is unbelievable," one of the friends murmured, unable to take his eyes off the owl. Charlie knelt down slowly, trying not to scare the little animal. "Hey, little one, what are you doing here all alone?" he asked, his voice full of tenderness. The owl hooted again, as if responding to Charlie's call. He knew he couldn't just leave her there. Something in the owl's behavior told him that she needed help. Perhaps she had gotten lost from her mother. Without hesitation, Charlie took out his phone and called the Wildlife Conservation Service. He explained the situation, describing the owl's peculiar behavior, and asked for guidance on what to do. The call ended with the promise that a team would be sent immediately to rescue the baby owl. While they waited, Charlie remained by the owl's side, keeping her calm with his presence. He knew that at that moment, he had become more than just an observer of nature. He was now the protector of a small and vulnerable life. Minutes dragged on as Charlie and his friends waited for the Wildlife Conservation Service to arrive. The small owl continued to stay by Charlie's side, her large, bright eyes seeming to trust him completely. The friends, previously relaxed, were now silent, feeling the gravity of the situation. Finally, the distant sound of a vehicle approaching broke the silence of the forest. It was the rescue team. A jeep from the Conservation Service stopped near the motorcycles, and two uniformed agents quickly got out. One of them, a woman with a serious but kind look, approached Charlie. "Are you Charlie? The guy who called us?" she asked as she surveyed the area around. "Yes, that's me," Charlie replied, pointing to the baby owl beside him. "She was here alone, and she seemed kind of to choose me. I didn't know what to do." The agent knelt beside the owl, inspecting her carefully without touching her. "This is a burrowing owl," she said after a few seconds. "They are a protected species in this region. It's very important not to touch her directly, so her mother doesn't abandon her." Charlie nodded, understanding the seriousness of the situation. "I knew I shouldn't mess with her much, but I couldn't just leave her here." The agent smiled slightly. "You did the right thing by calling us. Now we'll take her to a wildlife rehabilitation center where specialists can care for her and ensure she's healthy until we can return her to her habitat." She stood up and signaled to her colleague, who brought a specially prepared box for transporting birds. With careful and experienced movements, the agent used a small net to guide the owl into the box without causing stress to the animal. The owl did not resist, perhaps still sensing Charlie's protective presence as he watched her closely. Can I know where you're taking her?" Charlie asked, his voice revealing genuine concern. "Of course," the agent replied, gently closing the box. "We're taking her to the Northfield Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. They have specialists in birds of prey who will ensure she receives all the necessary care." Charlie sighed, relieved but still with a heavy heart. "I would like to know how she's doing." The agent noticed the sincerity in his words and handed him a card with the center's number. "You can call us at any time for updates on her. We appreciate what you did for this little one. It's rare to see someone care so much." Charlie took the card and put it in his pocket, nodding. "I'll keep in touch." The Conservation Service Jeep drove off, taking the small owl to a safe place where she would be cared for. Charlie stood there, watching until the vehicle disappeared down the winding forest road. His friends approached, trying to cheer him up. "You did something amazing today, Charlie," one of them said, lightly patting his shoulder. "Who would have thought a simple motorcycle ride would turn into this, huh?" Charlie smiled slightly but still felt a tightness in his chest. "I just hope she'll be okay." At that moment, something changed inside Charlie. He had experienced the responsibility of protecting a wildlife, and it touched him deeply. What he didn't know was that this encounter was about to trigger a series of events he could never have predicted. Days passed, but Charlie couldn't get the little owl out of his mind. He regularly called the Northfield Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, receiving updates on the baby's health. The good news was that the owl was recovering well and would soon be ready to be returned to her natural habitat. This thought brought some relief to Charlie's heart. One night, while he was at home, the phone rang unexpectedly. It was late, and Charlie found the timing of the call strange. On the other end of the line, a firm and official voice spoke. "Charlie, this is Officer Parker from the Wildlife Conservation Service. We need you to come to the station immediately. There's something you need to see." Charlie's heart raced. Did something happen to the owl? That's what we need to talk about. Please come as soon as possible. Hanging up the phone with a sense of foreboding, Charlie grabbed his keys and drove to the station, his mind filled with unsettling possibilities. When he arrived, he was led directly to a room where two officers were waiting for him. In the center of the room, on a table, was a transport box, similar to the one he had seen the day the baby was rescued. As he approached, Charlie noticed that something was different. The box seemed larger, and he could feel a powerful presence emanating from within. One of the officers, noticing Charlie's anxiety, carefully opened the box. Inside, in absolute silence, was an adult owl. Her eyes, penetrating and wise, locked directly onto Charlie, as if recognizing him. The room was filled with tense silence as everyone waited for some kind of reaction. "This owl appeared at the station a few hours ago," Officer Parker explained. "She was hitting the windows trying to get in. When we managed to bring her inside, she didn't make any aggressive moves, but she seemed determined to come here." Charlie stared at the owl, feeling an immediate and inexplicable connection. "Do you think that she is the mother of the baby I found?" "It's a possibility," Parker replied, crossing his arms. "Owls have a very strong protective instinct. If she really is the mother, it's likely she's looking for the baby." The adult owl remained motionless, watching Charlie with an almost supernatural intensity. He could feel the weight of that responsibility returning. But now, it was different. It was as if he was being called to do something even greater. The Animal Protection Service also believes this owl may be the mother, Parker continued. They think she followed some trail here. We don't know exactly how, but she seems determined to find the baby. Charlie felt a mix of emotions, fear, respect, and a strange sense of duty. He knew he couldn't ignore what was happening. "What can I do to help?" Officer Parker nodded, seeing the determination in Charlie. "We need to reunite them, but it will be a delicate process. We need you to be there because for some reason, this owl trusts you." The officer's words echoed in Charlie's mind. He had never imagined that his life would take such a turn, but now he was involved in something much bigger than himself. He was about to face a unique situation where the fate of 2 wild lives depended on his actions. "I'm in," Charlie replied without hesitation. The decision was made. The adult owl continued to observe him, and somewhere distant, the baby eagerly awaited the return of her mother. The pieces were moving, and the next step would be crucial. The next morning, Charlie met with Officer Parker and the Wildlife Conservation Service team at the Northfield Rehabilitation Center. The sun was still rising, casting a soft light over the landscape as the group prepared for what could be one of the most emotional and delicate moments of their lives. Charlie was nervous but determined. The adult owl, now in a secure transport box, was visibly agitated, her eyes constantly scanning everything around her as if she were searching for something or someone. Charlie felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but he also knew he was about to witness something extraordinary. "Charlie, we know this may be difficult, but your presence is crucial for the success of this reunion," said the Conservation Service agent, who had already guided the baby's rescue. "Owls are intelligent creatures and can remember people who helped them. She seems to trust you." Charlie nodded, trying to control his anxiety. The team led him to a specially prepared room for the reunion, where the baby owl was waiting, nestled in a cozy corner. As soon as they entered the room, the atmosphere seemed to change. The baby, who had been relatively calm, began to emit a soft hoot, almost as if responding to a silent call. The adult owl, still in the box, became more agitated, as if she felt the proximity of her baby. The air was thick with anticipation. "We're going to open the box now," the agent said carefully. "If all goes well, they should recognize each other immediately." Charlie positioned himself close to the baby, his calming presence helping to keep the little owl relaxed. The agent then slowly opened the transport box. The adult owl stepped out with contained majesty, her eyes fixed on the baby. The moment was filled with pure tension. Everyone in the room held their breath. For a few seconds that felt like an eternity, the adult owl remained still, just observing the baby. Then, slowly, as if she was evaluating the situation, she took a few steps toward her child. The baby, in turn, began to hoot louder, recognizing the familiar figure before her. And then it happened. The adult owl moved closer and, with a graceful motion, nestled beside the baby, covering her with one of her wings, as if she wanted to protect her from the world. The emotion in the room was palpable. Charlie, who had held back tears until that moment, felt his eyes well up as he watched the touching scene. Everyone present remained silent, respecting the intimate moment between mother and child. The owls stayed like that for a few minutes, as if they were making up for lost time. It was as if the world around had stopped, allowing this special encounter to occur without interruptions. Finally, the Conservation Service agent broke the silence. "We will return them to their natural habitat today. They belong to the forest, and now that they are together again, that's where they should be." Charlie just nodded, knowing it was the right thing to do. He felt a deep connection with those birds. but he knew his role was coming to an end. The most important thing was that they were where they belonged, in the freedom of the forest. Later that day, the team, along with Charlie, took the owls back to where it all began, in the same forest where Charlie had found the baby. The sun was setting again, casting long and golden shadows through the trees. Carefully, the team opened the transport boxes, and without hesitation, the adult owl flew to freedom, followed by the baby, who was now strong enough to keep up. Charlie watched as the two disappeared among the trees, feeling a mix of joy and melancholy. "You did something incredible, Charlie," said the agent, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It's not every day that we get to be part of something so special." Charlie smiled, still with his eyes fixed on the forest. They're where they should be. That's what matters. As the shadows of the night began to spread through the forest, Charlie returned to his motorcycle, knowing that he had made a difference in the lives of those owls. What he didn't know was that this experience would stay with him forever, shaping the way he would see the world around him.